Okay, it's been more than 2 months since POCO F5 launched, and since then we have seen new phones as well. But interestingly, I've yet to see a mid-range contender that can go up against the F5 in terms of performance or value. There is the new Huawei Nova 11 that's more expensive than this phone but heavily underpowered in terms of performance and lacks Google and 5G support, so that's out of the picture. The closest thing to this phone in terms of overall value is the Infinix Note 30 VIP that we reviewed a few videos ago, but even that doesn't hold a candle when it comes to the camera performance of the F5. Weirdly, Realme has yet to release a new phone that usually goes up against POCO's offerings. I don't know the reason why, but my hunch is that they profit more in the low-end range than the upper mid-tier range. So I guess for now, it's safe to say that the POCO F5 has no competition in its price range when you look at it from the perspective of the best overall phone value. With that said, looking forward, what could we ask more if POCO releases the POCO F6 in the future? Well, let's answer that as we go along, but for now, I want to talk about what stayed great during the past month and what could be improved in the next iteration, as well as what we could expect looking forward. So undoubtedly, the performance of the POCO F5 has stayed great thanks to the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2 chip. Again, this is the second best performing chip right now, and seeing it on a device under 20,000 pesos is incredible, especially considering how expensive smartphones are nowadays. So it's got a ton of headroom for the next 2 to 3 years that you're going to be using this phone, and it can handle everything you throw at it, be it extended 4K video recording or heavy gaming at high frame rates and max settings. If you're looking for a flagship performance but a lower price, the F5 is basically that phone. I mean, I've been enjoying playing Honkai Star Rail for days with this phone for at least an hour straight. I managed to push the thermal limits of this phone, and while the chipset temperature tops at 50 to 51 degrees Celsius, it doesn't throttle as badly as I would expect. The performance will dip to 45 FPS at some times, but won't stay long and will pick up right back. Considering that this phone is relatively thin, and despite hitting 50 degrees, it's not like this phone is dangerously hot to the touch. And it's kinda expected for this type of phone to reach that thermal limit given that this is a high-end performing chip. I have had no problems with Miui so far, even after receiving the latest 14.0.7 update with a June security patch. I have noticed POCO being a consistent sender of software patches every 2 to 3 months, and that's not limited to this phone, and I applaud them for that, especially after the dead boot issues from the past. I have been asked many times as well if POCO phones have dead boot issues, and guys, these newly released phones from them don't have any of that. They have addressed that in the past, that's why they came out with extended warranties, and I'm sure they have been doing their best not to repeat the same mistake. But that's about it for the performance. I must say though that after this phone launched, there were rumors that the successor to the POCO F5 won't be receiving the same Snapdragon chip due to the expensive price of the chip, but a new report claimed that the upcoming POCO F6 could be using a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip. Now that's something to look forward to. I am pretty satisfied with the performance of this phone. Where I want to see more changes though is in the cameras. But just to be clear, I have no complaints with the camera performance here, whether that's the 64 megapixel main sensor or the 8 megapixel ultra-wide. This phone shoots incredible photo quality at this price. This may be the best phone I've tested when it comes to the overall performance of the cameras, be it photos or videos. Obviously, I don't expect it to be the likes of real flagship phones, but for a fraction of a flagship phone, you're getting 4K video recording with stabilization across the board. But looking forward, I want to see either one of these three things: a better selfie camera with at least 1440p video recording, or a 4K video recording with an ultra-wide sensor, or a dedicated telephoto lens if possible. For all I care, you can keep these same set of cameras but add a telephoto lens next time because that's still better than a 200 megapixel lens, and it consumes much less space and supports HDR. Another room for improvement here is the speakers. Regardless if it's a stereo setup or a dual speaker setup, the quality of speakerphones continues toward the trend of the teeny side. It's like every release the speaker quality is a bit worse, but hopefully that changes soon. And with the display, it definitely stayed great for the past month. There's not much you can improve with the display, and every year either it gets brighter or it gets wider color support. I am satisfied with the 6.67 inches AMOLED at 1080p with peak brightness that reaches up to 1000 nits in HDR. I will say this though, when I compare this display side by side with the Infinix Note 30 VIP, to my eyes at least, both were punchy and bright, with the F5 only looking a bit more sharper despite the two having the same panel size and display resolution. But the battery, that 5000 mAh battery, I think could be improved next time. It's understandable that 5 to 6 hours of screen time every day is good enough, but not really great, and if you're really pushing it to its limits every day, you'll be averaging 4 hours of screen time, but then again, this phone is powering a top-end chipset. If POCO could bring back that 5160 mAh, I think it would make a significant impact on the battery life next time. Lastly, the design. There is really not much to say about the design of this phone. Everything is made of plastic except the display, of course, so you simply either live with plastics that's durable and lighter or a glass panel that easily breaks and has a bit of weight to it. I've never used a case for this phone and I have yet to see any scratches or dings, but then again, I am extra careful when it comes to my devices. Overall, POCO F5 has remained the best phone in value when it comes to overall features and specs. It has everything you need but the kitchen sink. Now, is this phone capable of lasting at least 3 years? Yes. So if you're buying a phone for longevity, the F5 will give you that. Although the 3-year software support isn't as impressive as Apple's or Samsung's, you're still paying a fraction of the price for their flagship phones. That's the POCO F5 60 days or 2 months later. Drop us a like if you feel like supporting the channel, and as always, until the next one, stay safe.